Welcome to work session. It's July 28th, 2026 at 12 o'clock. Our first item up for discussion today is overview and update from Cloud City Conservation Center regarding the sustainability contract work plan as part of the climate action plan. This will be led by Emily Olson, C4 Director, and Bryce Ulrich, our Water and Natural Resources Director.
We, I believe, sent in a presentation that you should have.
I liked the Lorax edition, other than that.
You got it then.
We got the presentation.
You got
for
the
sure.
presentation.
It's my favorite quote.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Sorry, it's taking its sweet time to pull things up. That's all
You're doing great, Candace. You're doing great.
I think this should be the least stressful thing on your plate right now. This is just an update.
You see all your teams.
We're in them.
Go to BOCC.
I did, and then I went to work sessions.
Oh.
And it said, no, thank you.
If instead of posts, you see where it says posts underneath it. Work session at the very top.
Ah.
Shared? Yeah. There you go.
Thank goodness.
Just click on it first, because then it'll open up another thing.
Don't you open it in the app, right?
Well, I mean, you have to click on a link in that PDF. Just look at it, it's not the presentation. Yeah, now click on that.
Okay.
I think,
Yay. And we can tell you when, or I could do it.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna let you drive,
I
and
could do
hopefully
that.
you have better luck than I am
Okay.
having.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much.
sorry, Izzy, we just gotta make sure it's shared, cause Andy's online. Can you, let Candace
You can do
share
it from the Zoom if you want
Okay.
down there, then just.
Here, you do it, you do it. Okay.
I don't know, I don't think I'm having.
You're doing great, Candace.
First thing we've
There
done
she
this week. There we go. Oh my god.
Make it tiny, make it tiny. Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna make it big. Yes, there we go.
Good job, everybody.
Well, thank you all so much for being here, and I just wanna say, like, thank you to everyone who worked on the Willow Fire response, because, yeah, you guys, it's just such a stressful time, and we really appreciate all the work that you all did as local government for that, so huge shout out to you guys.
Thank you, Izzy. Andy's got his hand raised. Can we just see what's up in case you can't see something?
Andy, can you see us or hear us?
Yeah, I can. I was trying to do a thumbs up and must have raised my hand. My bad. I can see the screen sharing.
You're not being crushed. That's nice of you to say, Izzy.
Yeah, and also thanks for adopting the climate action plan so that we can really get started on it. We're really here to discuss with you all some of the priorities that have arisen from all of the different interviews we did with the different department heads, as well as all of these different community partners, to understand, you know, what do people in this community actually want to see happen? And then from those interviews, we created the 5-year implementation plan. And so we want to discuss that plan with you today. The plan is really what came out of all these interviews, and we really want this presentation to be more of a conversation between you guys. And so feel free to stop us, ask questions. We want this to feel interactive. And Andy, just speak up if you have a question, because we can't see you up there.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide, see if this works.
Yeah, why don't you scroll?
Hey.
Yes, okay, so we wanted to start by asking everyone in the room to think about this question. What is one thing about Lake County that you want to protect for future generations? And we wanted all 3 commissioners to also share your response to this question. So take a sec to think about it, and then we want you guys to share.
What's the question?
What is one thing about Lake County that you want to protect for future generations? Okay, Elsa, would you like to start?
Sure. Our winters, as well as we can. I'd like to protect our winters and our infrastructure.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Matt?
One thing I wanna protect for future generations.
It's a hard question.
Recreational opportunities?
Awesome. How about you, Andy? What is your answer to this question?
I want to protect what I found here that gave me a real big sense of purpose in life was the ability to live somewhere where I could play and work and raise a family. And that is not within easy grasp of everyone all the time, but anything we can do to keep those doors open for more people will feel like time and effort well spent.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you all for sharing. This came up a lot during our interviews with all the different department heads. And so our 5-year implementation plan is really based off the idea behind this question. How can we protect this county for future generations, whether it's winter, recreational assets, a place to live and work and play? This is really where we have been guided to go through all of these different interviews as part of this plan. So I want y'all to keep this question in mind as we go through the presentation here. Oh my god, this mouse is so hard.
Maybe just the button on the keyboard, just like a
Hit
right.
the arrow on the keyboard.
Turn it the correct direction.
Alright, so we, we've had a bunch of deliverables, since we saw you last, but I think 2 of the main ones were stakeholder reviews, where we interviewed all of the folks on the screen here and more. And the 5-year implementation plan, which we'll get to in a few slides. But up on the screen, we interviewed all of the commissioners individually, the county manager's team as a group, and a number of the department directors. And then over on the right, we see some non-county groups that we had interviews with, and we got quite a bunch of interesting feedback from everyone, and we took all that feedback and tried to make it into basically a prioritization. So if you go to the next slide, these are the 5 priorities that stood out. So in no particular order, waste management and infrastructure wildfire resiliency and forest health, buildings and energy efficiency, water protection and conservation, and education and outreach. And these kind of line up with some of the climate action plan focus areas. The waste management and infrastructure lines up with the food systems and waste focus area from the climate action plan. The wildfire resiliency, obviously, things have changed since we did this interview, so that's the obvious big thing in the room. But before this past month, it was already a big focus, so we only expect that to be bigger. Then buildings and energy efficiency lined up straight with one of the CAP focus areas. Water protection and conservation also lined up directly. And then education and outreach in the climate action plan was more of individual strategy within each of the focus areas or action item even, but we wanted to highlight it here because we felt like the feedback we were getting from a lot of folks was that education and outreach was a really important piece of it. So yeah, these are, I guess they are ordered, but they're all important, and we do feel after the recent events that wildfire probably goes to number one. So if you go on to the next slide, I think Emily's next.
Yeah, so we wanted to share some cross-cutting themes that came out of these stakeholder interviews. So these are not necessarily priorities, but these were things that were brought up to us over and over again. So one, I think this really, the first one resonates with what you all just shared, but the importance of protecting natural resources and community character. We really want to protect this place that we live. With what Richie just ended on, the need for public education campaigns, that was I think that's kind of how education continued to rise to the top, was like, oh, when I have conversations with, my friends and neighbors, we don't really know what's going on. How can we find out where all of these resources are in one place? How can we find out how this impacts our community? So that kept coming up again and again. And I think that's a good segue into the desire for practical, locally relevant solutions. We heard over and over again from both county staff and stakeholders. We know we don't have $10 million to invest in solutions here. We want to see solutions that we can actually enact as a community, and I think education is kind of some low-hanging fruit that is not necessarily a huge cost, but is something we could invest in, and it could make a really big difference. I think, for example, in the last week, I don't know if you've all seen all of the photos on Facebook of the trash cans being tipped over by bears. There is an 8-foot bear living in my neighbor's yard right now, and I think that that's something that's come out of this fire of, oh, we're realizing we live in the woods, and what can we do to educate our community on how to protect the bears, make sure they don't get into trouble, get into trash. We don't want this to be a place where, bears, their lives come to an end. So I think there is this desire in our community for, hey, let's implement solutions that are easy wins, that don't take a ton of resources, maybe just take a little bit more coordination. And so that's something with the 5-year implementation plan we really took into mind. I don't think there's anything we've suggested in there that is a huge lift on our taxpayers. We really tried to be like, okay, if this is a huge lift, are there grants out there that could fund it? How can we make this achievable for our community? And then also the preference for near-term, once again, achievable projects over long-term aspirational goals. I think we heard over and over again, we really want to see something come out of this that we can implement and move forward as quickly as possible. And I think that's how we approach our work at C4, and it's how we've approached this contract with you all, and how we approach implementing the CAP. I think the CAP is a wonderful document. There are definitely some things in there that are long-term aspirational, and so we're really trying to focus our efforts on what can we get done with the county in, the next year we have together with our contract, without asking you all to invest a huge amount of staff time or dollars in addition to what you're already investing.
Cool.
Go to the next slide, Disney. So I guess that's a great segue into the capacity and funding constraints. This came up over and over again. I think your staff and community partners just really wanted us to be aware of, hey, it's not that we don't want some of these things to happen, but it's that we really need added capacity to make them happen. And so that's really how we've been looking at our role. How can we partner with directors and county staff to help them achieve the things they already want to do? I think a lot of what was in the climate action plan are things that stakeholders want to see happen. There's just this capacity piece of who has the time and the resources, and that's really what our role is how can we come in and help your team implement these projects and priorities in a way that they can carry it forward once this contract ends. And really build capacity for a short period of time, but set you up for success in the future.
Awesome.
And I wanna give 2 examples of this. Number one, Public Works and the landfill asked us to help them write a grant for C3 to get that waste scale. So we did that, we submitted it, and now C3 is asking us to attend the board meeting for that grant, which is really good news. So hopefully we get that. But again, just an example of they might not have the time to fully write that grant. We have the knowledge and some expertise and ability to do so. And so this funding is really giving our county more time to work on projects that people really want to see happen and maybe don't have the time to do. Another example is tourism also asked us to work on a trash campaign, putting up signage around what do I do with my waste in Lake County? What is the yellow bag system? Where do I get those? How do I recycle? What can be recycled? So we've been working on them with that, and they were able to print out a bunch of laminated flyers, which we're hopefully gonna hang up around town. So very excited about that. So just an example there.
Nice.
So before we go on to the next slide, I just wanna pause here and see what is coming up for you 3 as commissioners. Any questions so far or things you wanna talk about?
Can you remind me what C3 is?
C3, the Circular Colorado Community Grant, and they're hopefully going to get us funding to get that waste scale installed at the landfill, which would bring in more funding for our landfill
Circular Colorado,
communities.
and where are they from?
They're in Denver, in the
Denver.
Front Range, yeah.
Okay.
They're part of CDPHE,
Mm.
and they're funded through, I forget the name of it, but there's now a tax in Colorado on companies that produce recyclable goods. So if you're creating single-use water bottles, if you're using a large amount of cardboard boxes, that is where that funding comes from. And our county has previously, so the program was renamed to C3, it was previously named RREO, which was Recycling Enterprise Opportunities, and I forget the second R. But our county had previously received funding for the drop sites, the mattress recycling program, and other aspects of our recycling program. So it's a funder the county has worked with, and so their board is meeting on August 13th, and the fact that this application is being presented means that staff are recommending to their board that they fund this project, which is, I think, really exciting because both the county and C4 have applied several times, and I think we worked really hard to advocate to C3 about the needs in rural communities and how they're different than the Front Range. And I think this is a sign that they're really listening and they really want to work with rural communities to help us where we're at rather than really pushing us to aspire to where the Front Range is currently.
C3 came out and visited, and I thought that was really beneficial because they denied our first request for a scale, not recognizing that we don't have one. And when they came out, I think they were wildly surprised to find out we don't have one at all. We were looking for an upgrade, and so I thought that was pretty cool that they were able to come out and actually see we're not Denver, we're not looking for a second scale, we just don't even have one. And I thought that was good that they were able to recognize we're not the same.
When will you find out? When might you find out?
We should know on August 13th. They make the decision during the board meeting. It will be a long contracting process after that, but we should know whether or not it was awarded that day.
Cool.
They're the ones who brought out the recycling broker?
Yeah.
Yeah, so fingers crossed.
And his quote was, "I've never been to a landfill that didn't have a scale before."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, we got this.
Looks like Andy wants to chime in here.
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah, one of the things I just noticed recently with the issues plaguing the community was that folks were sharing their own homemade hacks for how to make their trash cans bear resistant. And it was as simple in some cases as just a couple hitch pins put through a little hole drilled in the lid to the body of the trash can. And I'm curious if that's something we could maybe find a fairly universal solution to and make available to the public for free. Like, hey, you just drill two little holes in the corners of the lid and put these pins in there, and it'll make the trash a lot harder for a bear to get into. And you had mentioned the bears and what are low cost, low hanging fruit types of solutions to some of the problems we see locally, and that kind of popped into my head.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Andy. I think we can definitely look into if there's a resource the county could share in the near term, and then in the long term, there are also there is significant funding through Colorado Parks and Wildlife to help communities reduce human and bear interactions that we could look into. I think all of our surrounding counties require bear-proof trash receptacles, and it may be time that we consider that. But I think if we were to suggest that, we would make sure there was funding available to help reduce any cost associated.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my overall impression is that it's great, you all are so plugged into what the community already does, that finding those simple solutions is like, you're in the right position to be able to do that. So that's my overall impression so far. Yeah.
Yeah, so diving more specifically into each bucket, so C3 we just talked about, waste scale. What came up is establishing an annual hazardous waste collection event day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people really want that. A lot of people have said, they're dumping electronics, in the woods or don't wanna pay for it, and so how do we get that started? Another project is developing waste diversion services and infrastructure for Twin Lakes, which we also help partner with them on a grant application for that. And then again, the What Do I Do With My Trash campaign, where we're making the signage with the tourism panel as well.
Wildfire resiliency and forest health. Again, these interviews were done before June 28th. So one of the things that came out of our impression when we talked to a lot of people is there are a lot of people doing a lot of things for wildfire mitigation in Lake County in the Arkansas Basin. I'm not sure I guess I a little am curious. I think we're all a little bit curious to understand exactly what the county wants their role to be. And I'm not suggesting that it should be any different than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more, I wanna be very clear that we're not the expert here, and you don't need another set of hands wading into something that's already working well. But I think what we have to consider here is it working well for those of you that are more in the know than we are, and if there's improvements to the coordination, because I went to the last Forest Health Council meeting down in Salida. Was it the right thing?
There's two different
There are
Forest
two.
Health
Forest Health
Yeah.
Council?
That's what's.
Okay.
There's a Lake County Forest Health Council,
Okay,
and then there's a,
The last meeting, I think they combined it into one though.
it was a joint, yeah.
okay, so, I don't think we as C4 are the experts here at all.
Yeah.
And we just, see that there are a lot of people doing a lot of things. And, any capacity we can add through this, we'd love to, but we, recognize that we don't wanna be in the way and we wanna help it out as best we can, so,
Can I offer something there?
yeah, I love your feedback,
You know, the meeting that you went to, that I was at,
yeah.
we were like, oh,
Hey,
doo-doo-doo. The person who ran that, Cindy Williams, she's the director for Envision, which used to be under Chaffey County government. It's now a separate nonprofit. And, she has been trying to apply for a regional partnership initiative, an RPI, through CPW, that would help to kind of combine asks across our region for wildlife mitigation, or wildfire mitigation and wildlife habitat management. And and we saw it at Lucosi a couple months ago, this like request from Adam, like, will somebody be the voice of Lake County in these RPIs to like advocate for our wildlife and wildfire needs with our partners, but represent us as a county. And we just submitted the RPI like 2 weeks ago with Chaffey County and Park County. And in that, Lake County specifically requested some capacity. Like I think $75,000 or $80,000 over, maybe 90, I'll have to look,
I think it's
But it's-
75 over 3 years.
over 3 years, it's like
25
$25,000 to $30,000 every year to try to stand up some of that coordination, because you're correct, it's not, it is happening, but there's not like this concerted effort from us as a county. So I just wanna offer that if we get that RPI, hopefully we'll be building in some capacity to do that
Okay.
work.
what is the county's
What do we do now?
vision of what they want, of what successful look like here?
We don't know who would do it yet too, so like
Yeah.
that's, the first thing was like, we gotta get the ask in.
Mhm.
It'd be great if we had a plan first and like the partner lined up or the staff member lined up first, but it came really quickly to apply for this RPI.
Okay.
So we just tried to make sure that the ask was there, so that then if we were awarded it, we could figure out where the capacity will be built. Will it be in a partner that the county works with, or will it be within a department that's already in the county? We don't know yet.
I think it's pretty likely it would be a partner doing the work. To get that level of expertise and equipment would be wildly cost prohibitive. But right now, what we do, and it would be great to see that we could do more, because I don't know what is gonna happen with, I know Sam Kalin is leaving Arwick. Right now, we provide a grant match in dollars, and so we take our Title III funds from SRS, thank you.
Yeah.
Said Huft. From SRS, and we use that money as a grant match to then provide that match for, I think, Artwick to do all of the mitigation work for us. And they also, this year helped us with our wildfire action plan, which identifies like where wildfire mitigation is needed and what is like the highest priority in terms of like danger that we can mitigate, and that's what we do now, but it would be great to support them more if they can continue to do that work, or if it's more work than they can take on, if we can find another partner who actually has the expertise and the staff and the equipment to do that work. Cause one in-house staff person would not be like, a team of people with the ability to do, wildfire mitigation. it's a huge process.
Well, it's the coordination, like the capacity that we have asked for is the coordination,
Okay,
not the actual mitigation.
right.
So, and it's not just wildfire management, it's also like the requesting money or organizing the Forest Service to get funding for the work of Half Moon. Like, right now, that capacity isn't built into our staff. So that's what we're asking for from this RPI, is that, and a lot of it, like Harmony is doing a huge amount of work in that field right now, where she's the one convening people talking about wildfire, camping, rec, wildlife management. But that's not actually her job, is to like speak for the needs of the county.
And she has a new role as well.
And she has a new role, totally, and her role might lose funding from her other partner. So we just need some more reliable funding for the capacity to do that. Coordination, to do the coordination.
Right on.
Okay.
One other thing I wanna stick in here is that, in the climate action plan, wildfire comes in two places. One is in the, environment and natural resources, focus area. And that's more wildfire mitigation focused on kind of what we've been talking about here, where it's, large mitigation efforts on public lands. And the other place it comes in is the building code, where it's more about wildfire mitigation 100 feet from a structure. And so I think it's maybe important, especially if this capacity grant comes through, is that those in a way are kind of parallel paths.
Yeah.
And as you know, we have a new wildfire building code as of the first of the month. Enforces as the first of the month. And so, education around that, I've been informally telling people, the code is only enforceable at new construction or major renovation, but don't you think it's a good idea?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, don't wanna lose sight of the building side
Totally.
of the wildfire mitigation stuff. So let's go to the next slide.
Well,
And I wanna,
sorry.
oh, you go.
just one more thing, like part of it is also finding the funding to continue that capacity building, right? Like I'd say that the example of this like wildfire resilience and forest health is that yes, it could be mitigation, but it could also be about moving people from where they have been to where they should be. Or finding recreational assets in places that are less dangerous, or whatever it is, like, I agree, but even in the next RPI, like, we'd wanna know from the whole community, like, what should we be focusing on, what should we be getting funding for, thanks.
And I wanna add one thing, when we talked to Ann Schneider, she said, yes, we need your help, we need extra capacity to educate residents on the new wildfire resiliency code, that's something we can do in this contract. Dan Daly said, hey, I really need help creating a page for residents with all these wildfire mitigation resources, like what does home hardening mean? What does the defensible space mean? Like where can you find the tools to do that? I know RWEC has done a lot of that work, and he asked for help, like how do we put this in one centralized page on the county website that's really easy for homeowners to access. So again, that's something that we could have the capacity to work on, and we kind of already have started compiling all these different resources there for that, so.
Cool.
Buildings and energy, buildings and energy came up a lot of different ways. One thing is the Mountain Energy Project, which is the kind of constriction on natural gas coming into the county. And C4 is already working on that and getting information out about that. And so coordination with that, a lot of the, in the past, let me step back. So kind of the subcategories of buildings and energy are like, residential, and then commercial, industrial, and then municipal. On the municipal side, we have had some great conversations with Josh and Stuart about energy usage and some ways we can help there. So we're definitely gonna work on that more. And then, yeah, the whole energy efficiency side, just getting as much information out there. We already do energy audits at C4, but we're looking to expand that, and we're always looking to expand opportunities for incentives for improvements, because once the energy audit is done, the incentives really tend to drive people doing insulation projects or other types of energy efficiency improvements. And yeah, let me stop there. Any questions from any of the three of you on building some energy? Or we could probably go to the next one then. Water will be pretty quick too. Water came up as a very important priority as well. Water protection and conservation is how it's written in the climate action plan. We recognize that, much like wildfire, we recognize that we are not the experts on that. Fortunately, we have Bryce on our team. So we lean heavily on Bryce for some of the goals around water protection. But the two main things that came up in the water area was riparian buffers and then septic and wastewater. So septic and wastewater is a big can of worms in this county, and whatever capacity we can add there, but we recognize that the county has a septic systems expert in Torsten, and Bryce with the water and natural resources director, so we're just here to add capacity however we can there.
And then last is the education and outreach piece, which encompasses all of the above. So we want to establish a community working group for sustainability called the Environmental Action Coalition. We already got some interest when we did our public presentation. We have about 9 people that are really excited, including some high school students, which is awesome. Yeah, so engaging youth and adults, and hopefully building a county-hosted climate resource hub online.
So I'm just gonna add, I'll let you take it in a second, but the 5-year implementation plan is really what we meant as our working, living document. In some ways, the climate action plan is a published, fixed document that we talked a little bit about that last time. That's a little harder to edit, so, you know, once you've approved it. So the 5-year implementation plan is really intended to be a living document, so.
Did this resonate with you? I think that's why we're here today, is as we move these things forward, we wanna make sure that we are representing the county's priorities and where you would like to see these, you know, our time and energy invested. So this is, you know, slightly different than the climate action plan. It does not include every action that was listed in that plan. I think there are, if you read through the full 5-year implementation document, there are other items in there that we identified, oh, there's already a group moving this forward. For example, C4 is already doing home energy audits. The county doesn't need to pop up a duplicative program. If it was something that was really important to you, there are opportunities to support that, but that's also an area where you're gonna have wins in the climate action plan if you do nothing, because it's already being done. So these were really the areas that came up as priorities in these conversations, and also where the county has the opportunity to have the biggest wins, because there's not as much being done, or if there are things being done, there really is a need for some more coordination and collaboration.
Yeah, these seem reasonable to me.
When I look at the 5-year implementation plan framework with year 1 action matrix, can you just help me understand the difference between, like, the year 1 X's within the different tabs? So like you've got year 1, year 2 through year 5, there are some things that have an X during year 1 but are not on the year one action matrix. Can you just help me understand the difference between the two?
It should be, if it's not pulling into the year one action matrix, then my formula broke and I will fix it.
Okay, I was
But
like,
anything that has an X in year one should pull over
be onto
the year one action matrix.
Okay, awesome, that
Yeah.
made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Cause it seemed like some of these things were being worked on, but they weren't on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the idea of this 5-year plan that's we can edit is that the climate action plan developed by the Brendel Group wasn't necessarily tailored directly to this community, and there were certain strategies and actions in there that we heard again and again in interviews, like maybe this isn't really a priority right now.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we gotta include this actually, and so this 5-year implementation document is a way to be way more specific and highly action oriented into what is this community looking for right now? What are the exact strategies and wins we can start working on right away?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it's helpful for you guys, like even after the contract with C4 ends. Like if Bryce hires that person to work for him, they can continue to use that document for the next 5 years, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
They can own the water tap. So,
yes.
Yeah. Cool. So much of this is like year one and year two.
It's a
Yeah.
living document.
Yeah, it's cool. And so much of this you've already started on, especially I feel like with the food systems and waste. It's
We're
Really
doing a
exciting.
lot with waste right now,
Yeah.
because that's like huge priority,
yeah,
I think. And also a huge opportunity to save this community money in the long term and all that good stuff. But what other questions are coming up for you guys? And Andy too, if you have any.
I have a question, but you know the cardboard recycling bin in at the fire station? The hole is about that big.
Yeah. That's because
They want you to compress
they want
it.
you to flatten it, cause it's easier for them to consolidate it into this basically cube that they then ship to Denver to be recycled.
I understand that part of it, the width is what I'm talking about, down here at the ball fields,
Oh, it's
it's
too
much
small.
wider. That will barely get like a 12-pack carton, I got lots of those, so.
I've never actually
So
done that.
updating so the next step with C3 after we hear from them on this grant is they also want the county to apply for their STEPS technical assistance program, which is where we would come up, we would work with a technical assistance advisor that the state, pays for to come up with a long-term plan for waste and waste diversion in this community. And we've already identified the drop sites as something that needs to be revamped. And that came up with the visit when they came to see the landfill. And we decided that because of the turnaround for that grant, we didn't wanna come up with a proposed solution in 30 days. It was really, we wanna sit down and say, this is what the drop sites need to look like. Exactly things like that, making sure that the size of the hole that you are putting the recyclable item through is the right size, those sorts of things. So those likely will get revamped in the next year. I think we're just really trying to focus on like, what is the highest priority need? And our hope is that if we are awarded the grant for the scale, that will really help shift the income at the landfill. And that way, when the county is applying for any future grants, we can really show how we will be able to sustain these programs in the long term without needing to come to the commissioners for contribution to that budget.
Cool.
I just wanna add at the end that we presented like a 5-minute version of this to the Colorado Energy Office last week. There were a total of 9 groups that are working on this, under this grant, and it was well received. The hiring of someone under Bryce was very well received to continue a lot of this work after our portion, after this contract period is done. And yeah, some of the other groups were way ahead because they've been under contract since 2024, but another one had their kickoff meeting the day before.
Yeah,
They had
Yeah, City of Pueblo had paused and then started and had a kickoff meeting last Monday, so. Seemed to be good, positive feedback, and it was neat to see how a lot of the stuff we're doing matches real close with a lot of stuff some of these other counties are doing.
Nice.
Yeah, like literally communities all over Colorado are
Yeah.
doing really cool, like they had some really cool projects. One community is putting solar panels on their reservoir to prevent water evaporation and like algae blooms, and then they're making energy for their community like through floating solar, which I've never even heard of before.
That's lovely.
Pretty cool.
That is really exciting.
We've talked about that too.
Yeah, we got a lot of lakes.
Yeah, it was, I think it was Larimer County, Pueblo County, City of Pueblo, Routt County, Garfield County, there were some others on there, La Plata. So, it was a good mix of areas within the state, Pueblo County.
This is my favorite quote from the Lorax: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So bringing it full circle to how do we want to make this place better for future generations, we really hope that the sustainability contract can work towards that goal for you all. Yay!
Yay,
Alright,
I'm impressed already.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Elsa.
thank you.
And I think, just another plug and reminder of, as you're getting into, I think we're scheduled to come back before you get into budget season officially, but like if there are areas where you're like, how are we gonna make this happen? Or we're not sure where this lives, or you feel like the sustainability contractor should be a part of conversations you're having, please invite us to the table. I feel like, we have kind of identified these priorities. There are even more areas within the climate action plan, but we work for you all. So if you feel like, hey, this is something we really want to tackle, but we don't have a staff member or department that is where it lives right now, call us. I feel like everything can be connected to sustainability and resiliency, and we are here to help you for the next year. To really start to move these things forward. So we don't want to insert ourselves into conversations where you don't want us, but we are happy to support you wherever we can.
Cool, thank you.
thank you.
And we gotta use their funding that they have available to them, right? Like
Yeah,
C4, the CEO said that they might not extend this contract, and so that gives us some more capacity to really give these guys the go-ahead to do some bigger projects.
cool.
We have that budget available to us, but maybe no ability to use it beyond August of next year.
What do you mean C4 CEO?
Sorry, C4, I misspoke, CEO of the Colorado Energy Office.
Oh, yeah,
Whatever grant.
Okay,
It was always my intention, hey, can we push this out and maybe go through the end of 2027?
yeah,
And at our last meeting earlier this month, they said probably not. It's a possibility, but probably not. So I feel like C4 is in a good position, especially with the 5-year plan up and running, to tackle some bigger stuff.
okay, what would that look like? Can you be a little more?
It would be like what they're talking about, identifying the things that you really think they could plug in on right away,
Yeah,
that technical assistance,
yeah,
pursuing grants.
yeah,
So we've put a lot of time and energy, I think, into the landfill so far. That's probably been one of our highest areas where we've spent time. I think the education piece is an area where there's a lot of opportunity for just how do we bring resources into one place that are easy for community members to find. I think there's so many groups across our county that are doing amazing work, but asking our community members to know that they need to go to our WIC's website to get these resources. I think you have done a great job with getting resources out there around the wildfire, but how do we continue that beyond just the need right now? I think that's an area where we could put in at least what we're waiting to hear from RPI and figure out a path forward, we can attend those meetings, we can help bring those resources into one place. I think there's a lot of interest from community members to understand what is the county doing, what areas can they tap into and learn more.
cool.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for coming, you guys. Thanks for the help at the dump,
Thank you.
Thank you.
the landfill.
Yeah.
The landfill.
Thank you, board.
Bye.
Okay, next on the agenda is, if we're ready, is the overview and discussion regarding the Lake County Disaster Relief Fund Committee. This will be led by Candace Brines, our county manager, and Gloria Perez, Lake County Community Fund Board of Directors President.
Can y'all come just a little closer so Andy can hear you? Sorry, he's on the Zoom.
Oh, okay, okay.
These chairs are a little hotter, I think.
Back row.
Right.
Whisper in her ear.
Sorry, I'm trying to get back to our top level.
Yeah.
And I think we have Brescia as well, maybe joining us virtually from the bottom as well. Make sure she was able to log in.
Sorry, when it updated, this is so different from how mine works, so I can't.
Yeah. You're doing good, dude.
So we, just for everyone's information, we've approved this fund agreement last week on the commissioners meeting. And so what we were hoping to get together to do today was to work on the establishment of the Lake County Disaster Relief Fund Committee, so that the committee could start to work together to make some decisions about where to allocate, some of the funding that's been received to the Disaster Relief Fund. And the reason that we came to this agreement is we felt that 2 employees for Lake County government shouldn't really just be the people making the decision about all of these funds. We feel that we've got a lot of people in our community who probably recognize needs we don't. We also recognize that, while we can have input from staff and it says we can have an advisory liaison to help with some of those decisions where information is needed, we really wanted to have a bigger group responsible for making those decisions. And really wanted for our BOCC members who've been elected by the public to represent them, to have, some input on who they felt would be good members of this group in conjunction with the Lake County Community Fund. And so in the agreement that we've come to, the 5 voting members should be 2 Lake County community members appointed by the BOCC who are not currently elected officials or employees. And then 1 member appointed by your board. And then 1 member representing a local nonprofit or community-based organization active in disaster recovery, jointly agreed upon, and then 1 at-large Lake County resident that's also jointly agreed upon. And so I asked to have this work session today so we could start to have some conversations about who those members could be, or if we don't feel that we could say who they could be today. If there's a process we wanna come up with today to poll people for interest or something of that nature, just wanted to give a little bit of guidance and let us have an open conversation about how we can compose this group, so that we can start to make some decisions with those funds that have been received. And I'll let you guys here give us an update on, the breadth of those funds. I don't know where it's at this point. I know we had talked earlier. And then just facilitate a conversation between both boards to talk about how we can get to this group so we can start to make some decisions.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you guys want me to just kind of share where it's at. And Angel,
thanks
who
for
is
that.
our director, is not here today. He's on vacation, so the last report that we have may be what you have already as well. So my understanding from the last report from Angel is that the fund was sitting at about, I wanna say about 65,000 with still some donations pending. Like a large donation that we are expecting from Freeport Foundation and I think Alpamar Foundation. And then I know there's been other, initiatives, like I know the barbecue festival is being considered as a way to bring additional funding, and so I do think that it's still, getting promoted by our neighboring communities as well as, businesses and stuff. So I think there's, still quite a few efforts. And so, yeah, as far as where the fund sits, that's, where it sits. We really appreciate this, this structure that is, getting recommended and having input from, having the creation of a committee. I know Greg and myself were part of a committee during COVID response as well, with other nonprofits, and I truly agree, Candace, that I think that having a diverse committee and with representation of those that can weigh in onto what the community needs are. I think this process makes us feel really good, being able to report to donors, to people that, have, again, put together efforts of, supporting, and us, as part of the board stewarding these funds. Anything that you guys would add, Greg?
No, right now,
Jim?
thank you. I just wanted to mention too, that we were really pleased and somewhat surprised at the amount of funds that were raised. And it was primarily through the Office of Emergency Management, where they put that on the website and made the announcements at those community meetings. And it was really a pleasing effort because so many people wanted to contribute something. They wanted to do something to help out. So I think this is another one of those efforts where the community is coming together, and it's really a positive thing. We're really pleased.
Awesome.
How are you considering selecting your representatives?
So for the community fund member, we would appoint Angel, who is our executive director. And then our suggestion for the local nonprofit or community-based representation would be someone from the Stronger Future Alliance, because we know that that's, like collaborative effort already that has quite a few of the nonprofit organizations. And so I think we, would go to them and ask them to, appoint a member. And we have a couple of folks, that we have thought about for a Lake County resident, but they haven't said yes. So as well, if you guys have any thoughts, I think that I have a couple of folks that said, that I reached out to and said, hey, we're gonna be discussing this with the county, would you consider it? And they said maybe.
Okay.
So I think like within the next couple of days, they can let us know, but as well, if you guys have any thoughts of an at-large member.
So I wondered if we could come up with maybe a first, second, and third option for an at-large member that everyone agrees on.
Yeah.
Or maybe a list of 5, so then we could go in order of, whatever you all decide and ask if those people would be willing. So then you kind of have like your next person down the line, and then staff is happy, as long as we can get a contact, happy to run down that list of people.
Quite a few of the folks that, that we likely would name it, that's why I went through like the line of like who doesn't represent an organization, because we know like quite a few folks, are attached to somebody that would be within the nonprofit sector
Mhm.
already, so I thought of people that are not,
Mhm.
connected to an organization, so they can be,
Yeah.
that.
Really separate.
So one
Yeah.
person we had in mind, was, Susan Fishman.
Yeah.
And she is one that said, give me 24 hours.
Is she on the
and,
board of St. George?
I think she volunteers, but I don't think she's
Okay,
on the board.
she's on the board
Yeah,
anymore.
she volunteers at a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
and I think she, knows the community really well. I
Yeah.
think she's like a great representative of both the Latinx community,
Yeah.
as well as the main community, and, has been here a long time. And I think that's, important to have knowledge of, again, the wide community.
for sure.
And then the other person that we had in mind, Angel and myself, is Christina Reveles,
Yeah, nice.
who, similar, right? She's
Yeah.
been here a long time. I think she knows the community really well.
Mhm.
And she's not, attached to an organization. But as well, she hasn't said yes. So, those were kind of the two members that, Angel and I had, identified.
Destiny Goodnich reached out
Okay,
and she said she would love to be
okay.
part of the committee.
I think that's also a great start, if somebody that's already willing, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a representative of the business community. She
Okay.
was the first AmeriCorps member to start. She started the Main Street program.
Well, she was started, but
She was the first employee.
she was our first history manager.
Right.
Mhm.
Right, so first, anyway, I think Destiny would be awesome. She wants to do it business and she's connected to Main Street, but isn't working for Main Street anymore.
Could you repeat
That's
that
great,
last name?
yeah, someone that,
IUD.
again, has.
NIC.
Andy, did you wanna say something? Where he went, but. Andy, did you mean to raise your hand?
Oh, sorry, I thought I unmuted. My bad. Okay, now I'm unmuted. I always felt like, as far as people who have their finger on the pulse of what's happening with the community, and especially in the business community, are people who own food and beverage businesses. So if there's anybody in that realm that maybe a name pops up in someone's head, I don't know. It seems like people who own restaurants really have a pretty good understanding of what's happening with the struggles and the hardships facing local businesses. Just my 2 cents there.
Andy, it makes me wonder, if you don't mind me speaking up, if this disaster relief fund is aimed at businesses. It's not clear to me that that's the track we're on.
I mean, there's a separate fund hosted by the community fund for
Correct.
businesses.
Well, actually, by Lifetime, the Lifetime Legacy Foundation.
Yeah, but isn't under the
Yeah,
community funds.
so it's, yeah, it's
Only
just
as
fully
a
structured.
As a
fiscal
501c3.
sponsored fund,
Yeah, yeah.
we're not running that fund, so yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all, it's just a thought, there are different directions, different funds can go. I think of this one as being aimed at people who need help, so.
I can agree, but I also think that's where it's important to ask what is the actual impact of the disaster. So I do think having someone that understands businesses who are having to lay off people who now are gonna have a need because they may not have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we wanna be conscientious to capture that, because when we talk about needs related to this disaster, there were no structures lost. There aren't people, other than a very few that were evacuated, who were out of their homes. And so I think it's really important to recognize needs that are related to this disaster, not just needs that already existed before this disaster started, because I think that would be outside of alignment with what the funds were given for. So I do think it would be important to understand from the business community if they lost revenues because business was down. I mean, it was a ghost town on 4th of July weekend, which is hard to see when it's one of the busiest weekends, they now have staff who may no longer be staff in the next month or two, who are gonna have a need because of that. And so I think that's where I wanna make sure we're not just finding needs that already existed and taking money that was donated by people for disaster relief when,
Yes.
you know, and that's where I think OEM Public Health are gonna be able to give some information to us about people who are coming in because of loss of revenue, but I also think the thought of a business person or someone who's connected when we had, and Josh, maybe you can pitch in, when we had a business community meeting, around 70 people showed up and there was real true concern there with what are we gonna do in the next 2 months when we really recognize the breadth of I can't employ someone if I'm gonna go under as a business. I don't know, Josh, do you have any thoughts? Put you on the spot.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is to recognize the existence of the two funds. So if there is someone from the business community that could help, like, have an awareness of what the sort of economic development fund is being used for in terms of business support, just to ensure that we're kind of spreading the breadth of the resources that were donated and are available. I do think that there's some value in that, having someone with that awareness.
Well, then maybe it's worth asking like Norm or Nancy from the Chamber of Commerce to be one of the representatives. Or for them to like see who has capacity to do it, because also everybody in the food and beverage is gonna be working harder than ever.
Yeah.
And they often don't have time to attend these kind of volunteer positions.
I
So,
also think that, you know, everyone that sits on the committee can definitely take a role in ensuring that, you know, they, learn about, you know, right, the needs as well, cause we understand that there's only gonna be, you know, this like one person, right, that's a community member. But we also know that the rest of the committee members probably have interaction, you know, through their organizations, right, and can reach out to their networks to come prepared to the meetings, you know, and hopefully someone, you know, can take some of those tasks to like, hey, you know, can somebody go talk to Tamara and ask about the EDC's fund and, you know, learn about that, and so that everyone, you know, can be sure to inform the community. Right.
I mean, we have 2 positions to appoint as well.
Yeah.
So we're kind of talking about 3 positions. One that we have to agree on and then 2 that we have to agree on, right?
Yeah,
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 I mean, I
yeah.
really think that Destiny has already some amazing ideas. She is on Main Street, represents the business community. So I personally would definitely want Destiny on there. She's bringing great energy already. But then I also think that we should ask the Chamber of Commerce if there's anybody who has similar energy and momentum who would want to
Have them
represent.
give us, so do we wanna use that as one of ours? I don't know, what do you think?
Can we appoint Smokey without informing him until the meeting?
I think you have to ask if he has bandwidth to do that.
I don't know, I'd like to see
Tell
somebody,
someone.
I'd like to see somebody outside the normal circles. Somebody who's outside the normal nonprofit, government, you know, somebody like an outsider, with a fresh perspective and without an agenda or
Yeah.
a preference. So I'd like to see the funds distributed based upon who was really affected. And like Candace said, the funds were donated for people that were affected by the emergency. There wasn't that many, so, you know, the few people that were my dad and his neighbors down by the fish hatchery. I don't think most of those people, well, I don't know. So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents, is I'd like to see somebody outside of the normal circles.
I do think, and I don't know if Gracia is on, but I wanna share, you know, cause we've been having this conversation as well within our board. I think there's definitely, you know, needs that were created that maybe like we don't think were like directly or immediate. I think like having heard one of our board members and how her family was affected by like an underlying health condition, so asthma, and as soon as, there was tons of smoke in our town, that prevented her from keeping her job in the time being because her asthma got so bad that she had to go to the ER, and she provides like daycare for a child. She works in a restaurant, and so the severe asthma, with the component of smoke, made it so bad that she had to stop working to take care of her health. And so that helped me understand that, yes, like there's probably needs that we're not thinking of, and that's why, having a committee is great and having people that know and again have had these interactions, because that's honestly not something I would have thought of because I wasn't in, even in a pre-evac zone, my family's healthy. So we could all, continue our normal activities, even with smoke around us, even if, we were somewhat closed. We continued working, right? So that's my family. But when I heard Gracia's story of her family, that's a whole different situation. And that's why, we want to ensure, like, yeah, you might not immediately think, well, if this person wasn't evacuated, how did it affect them? But again, Gracia shared with us that, yeah, like, well, now her sister, has a health condition that prevents her from going to work. So, or even potentially, like going back, or, did she get, terminated because she now couldn't work for several weeks? So that creates, those underlying needs. And I think that's, very important to ensure that the committee is bringing and surfacing these needs.
Absolutely,
As Gloria knows, the most difficult task of the original Unmet Needs Committee was to determine whether the need was real. And, one of our conversations was, we don't want people gaming, the fund. So they spent a lot of time trying to figure out if the ask was a legitimate ask.
So I'll offer two things that, for that very reason that you just shared, I thought about before we lost all of our resources that the state so kindly helped us with. So I worked with, we had a community partnership liaison that came and worked with us. I got a lot of the resources that other communities use to rank needs and vet needs. And then a lot of communities actually hire a contractor who actually goes and makes sure that the need is like a real need. I forget what the title of those contractors is, but I spoke with both Noah and also our partnership liaison about what the process is to find a contractor. It can be someone in the community, and think it would behoove us to actually try to hire someone who can do that legwork of, is this a real need? And I also inquired about any grant funding that they might have, so we may be able to actually use some sort of grant funding. And so once we figure out the composition of the committee, that's where, like, maybe that first meeting, I'll share those resources, share any, helpful things that other communities who have done this in an organized fashion, who have had much larger disasters, where you really do have to get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what is the need. So I do wanna offer that when the committee gets together, I'm not a voting member, but I'll bring all of those resources to the table. I'll probably bring Dan, our OEM, with me, as he also is a recipient of those. I likely will end up designating him as the non-voting person, but wanna make sure that the committee feels supported and that we've, helped them get a start on that process. So I did ask for a lot of those resources before having the thought of, we put a committee together so that it takes that. Yeah. But we're in such a small community that someone wouldn't be connected to the people in the group, no matter who is on this committee, would be shocking. And so that was the suggestion from our partners, is if you can find someone, that could be that person that's the need, I think could be really beneficial. And so do wanna offer that and the other resources we received. We'll share all of those out with the committee so that they can be utilized by the group.
That's great.
Yeah, and like Greg said, we have been through the COVID response, and that was a big part of the work that was done, and thankfully we have that to go back to, and we have members that that again, we lived and created that process during COVID, and spent quite a bit of time, working on something like this because it's real, right? Like remember when we had a discussion during COVID that as you start to inquire about needs, it's you open up a lot of stuff, right? And that's why I was saying that we definitely want to rely on the community and what they are learning, because like I said, my story is very different in this Willow Fire than somebody else that's on my board, and their family, but again, to go back a little bit to COVID response, I remember that we had this conversation of, you start asking people for needs, and of course, people that have, experienced challenge and, poverty over years and stuff like that, it's natural that somebody might say, like, I need a new stove, for example. Right, and it wasn't like, this need resulted out of this emergency, and that's what we're trying to sort out, right? Is that, yes, now we can't, go buy folks, a new stove or a new fridge, or, if it wasn't the result of something like this, but all that to say that, again, we have, I would say, a lot of expertise now that was built from COVID response and similar funds, that.
I like the idea of somebody from Stronger Futures being on it, because they're like a multi-point access coalition, they can also help build in some of that process so that as needs are being uncovered and teased out,
Right,
the basic need that was already there doesn't get lost
right.
and it gets connected. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that becomes very true.
yeah.
But yeah, as, again, just our initial kind of what we have heard, from folks again is some of these, like underlying, health conditions that became worse with, with smoke, and stuff like that. People having to relocate, even if the evacuation order was maybe only one day, people may have had to evacuate for several, days or weeks because of an underlying health condition that became worse, or folks that didn't know that they were going to be right back into their homes, so when they got evacuated, they paid up front for a hotel for a week long because they got a better rate, and then they were informed they could come back. People that may have obviously like left medication, glasses, contact lens, like at home because they had to, and then they had to pay for those themselves.
So how many folks do you have written down, Candace?
So I have for B that it will be Angel. I have for C that we are gonna ask Stronger Futures to select someone. I think I need a little bit of clarity on A and D. So we get two that are your selections, and I have had 5 people suggested at this point. So I don't know if some of the 5 are that A, or if all 5 go under D. Would be helpful for me to know. So I've got Destiny, Christina, Susan, Norm are a representative from the business community. So I don't know which of those 5 are people that are the 3 of you suggesting to, or if all of those 5 I just listed are the one that we jointly are agreeing upon. Does that make sense?
What do you think, Matt? Who would you wanna pick for two?
Well,
For
are we
A.
gonna do an outreach or something, or are we just gonna pick something?
I think if you guys suggested a few names, we could reach out
Yeah.
to them and just make
Yeah.
sure they're okay with being on it.
Mhm.
We can send out a form and be like, if you're interested, put your name in, and I could see that that also could maybe take
I think
a
that
lot of
takes, yeah.
time, and I know that
Yeah.
that we are
Yeah.
trying to start to make some decisions in the year. Or try to
Yeah.
at least get the committee together to figure out what are the criteria,
Yeah,
get organized, and then start to vet the requests that we receive, and I think the requests we receive could be more of like a form.
yeah.
I think it would be, get too chaotic to try and, recruit someone from like the whole community. I definitely think it's best, with the brainstorming that, we can
I think since
land on
Destiny,
someone.
sorry, Gloria.
No, go ahead.
Destiny sounds fine to me. If she reached out,
Yeah.
I hate to throw someone's name in the hat that doesn't wanna be in the hat.
Okay.
So for A, like, can she be one of ours
Yeah.
since she reached out to us?
And like I said, for D, I can circle to Susan and Christina and see if one of them,
And see if any of them.
if that's okay, if one of them agrees.
I like that a lot.
And then so would our second one be that we ask Norm or someone with the business community if they could recommend someone from their group?
That's what I would recommend.
Ask who?
Norm
From the chamber.
from the chamber, if he could maybe work with his group, maybe Norm and Tamara, can you guys suggest someone that you can vet would want to do it?
Yeah.
I think that's great, cause then it's not us just all picking, it's us
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
hey, groups that are meeting, where could we also get input from the
Yes.
broader community?
So
But
that's,
obviously not Norm
Yeah,
or Tamara.
yeah, could
Yeah.
they suggest someone
Yeah,
who
who
is
has
vetted that
time,
they would do it?
capacity to do it, yeah.
so that's D,
That's A, that's our second A,
that's our second A?
yeah.
Okay.
And Gracie is gonna reach out, or sorry, Gloria's gonna reach out to
Susan
Susan and Christina.
What about someone from the Republican committee? Don't they have a group, the Republicans have a little group? Sorry, everyone's heart rate just jumped.
No, why would we ask them versus like the Dems?
Because they're outside of the normal groups.
For D, or?
For A or
A
D,
or D, I would say, like, I'm not opposed to, any of that. I would say, like, the most important thing to me for D is someone that, knows our community well, that, has been here a significant amount of time to know, and someone that can represent Latinx community, the immigrant community, as well as the at-large community, because I do feel strongly that if we choose someone that isn't familiar with the, needs of the Latinx community, that they will, get lost. And someone that can be a voice, right? Which I do, at the same time, like I feel that Struggle Future Alliance, again, they, will know the needs, and Angel, of course, is from the Latinx community as well. But I think that, knowing both communities, right, I think that, like, when evacuation of Lake Fork happened, versus like another, zone, it's different, different dynamics, even if everyone's a member of our community.
Yeah.
It occurs to me, and I was informed by an earlier conversation, that some of the impact could be direct. Someone got evacuated and they need to help cover some of those costs, I don't know. Nobody lost a home. I'll digress a little bit and say, during the pandemic, we were focused on keeping people in their home.
Right.
It was a very different, relationship. And so we were paying rent or mortgages, and then C4 was backing utilities. And so it's kind of cooperative. That's not what this is gonna be. It doesn't appear in any way, shape, or form. But there may be indirect, like we talked about the business community and people who have been laid off from their jobs. So in that sense, those people could need also direct support
Right.
to stay in, in their home.
I think that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to say, is there's likely
I think so
some people
too.
who've had to lay
Yeah.
people off who
Right.
don't
Yeah.
work out of town, they work in town because they work
Yeah.
for a business in town.
Well, and a lot of those underlying conditions also get exacerbated during a crisis, so it's not like we're gonna be able to tease them out exactly, but
So what do people think about my idea of inviting a Republican, specifically from the Republican Party? I know they're trying to organize a force. I'm not a Republican, by the way. So-
I'm
You're
not
just
either.
trying to think of someone.
I understand the heat I'm getting here, the vibes I'm
I only,
getting.
I only know one person personally, and
Well, you
that's
got Jack,
Betty Benson,
yeah, Betty.
who's a Republican, and other than that, I don't have a
so
clue.
you got
who
Jack
it is.
Saunders, you got,
Oh, that's, okay.
you got Paul,
Mueller.
Paul Mueller, who's a really great guy, and, that's what I mean by someone from outside the community, not to diminish your thoughts on the, on the community that is gonna get represented heavily in this committee, so.
But if you're gonna go reach out to the Republican caucus, you really need to do the same thing to the
Right.
Dems.
Yeah,
So that it is bipartisan, or
Yeah,
nonpartisan.
I'm not opposed to like, a political party or anything. I would say, let's not recruit with, kind of that in mind, right? Whether they represent Democratic or Republican, more than, do they know who lives in our community, that they can, represent this voice, and again, and have because when I think about, everything that has been happening, again, through this fire, right, is, that's kind of what my immediate thought is, like, what the different people that live in the different zones have had to go through, right, and like Candace was saying, our, business community, and that's what I think of it, and that's why I was saying, I think that this large member, should, have, decent understanding of, what what's turquoise lake estates versus lake fork. Yeah, and that's what I would,
I understand what you're saying. I threw it out there for conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not attached to it or anything, but I wanted to hear what you guys thought about that. I think it's interesting.
I think for other efforts, I think,
Can I add a
but
third?
I think we could, like, that might be,
Does it make you, does that
it
make
makes
you
me a little
uncomfortable?
uncomfortable in terms of, like us, going out there and say, hey, we want someone from the Republican Party, or we want someone, from the Democratic Party. I think like we're interested and we want someone that knows our community and
I
can
understand
represent
that.
community.
There's plenty of Republicans that
Yeah.
know our community. In fact, there's
Right,
Republicans that have sat in these seats,
but that's why I would say like, well, let's just, if we land on someone, well, let's recruit them based on that and not
on their
because
political affiliation.
yeah, not because of their political affiliation.
Could I ask if we're gonna be asking, I think you said Susan and Christina, could we, maybe rather than selecting someone based on their
Political affiliation.
political affiliation, could we think about the fact that Twin Lakes actually was the recipient of the bulk of the smoke? And, I live on the other side of it and it was quite smoky, it was actually way worse. Could we maybe think about throwing a third person to reach out to, so when you reach out to them,
Oh, yeah.
a third person maybe from that
Twin Lakes.
community who largely doesn't get as engaged as someone that's
Yeah.
in town?
Yeah.
What
Just
about like Misty,
What about Kelly?
Kelly
What
comes
about
immediately to
yeah,
mind,
Kelly
yeah.
Sweeney.
isn't she tired?
That's true for some of our
She's
folks,
been
but
retired
given
for
the-
20 years and she still stays
I
involved.
think she said tired.
Yeah.
I said tired.
Tired.
I think she's tired.
She might be that too.
Yeah.
I think she just
Retired,
went down to her
She's
mantle.
retired. That's what some of the folks that we have reached out to, oh, I've been trying to step out of
Yes.
committees or things like that, so that is a challenge, and it's why it's
So-
good to have a few names.
Yeah, like,
Misty Cuertone, she lives in Balltown, she started the Twin Lakes Business Alliance. She I think she's a Republican. Yeah, I got you, Matt.
But we said we're not recruiting based on political.
No, I'm just offering, in case he's feeling.
We're not going to ask their political
No,
affiliation.
No, and I don't know, I don't know actually. But anyway, she was on the tourism panel, like she is incredibly engaged, definitely builds community all the time. It's,
Maybe that could
she
just
lives in
then
a
be the
nice small
ask
town.
is of those three, you know, would one of you three
Yeah,
want to fill that last one?
Yeah, let's just see who's available,
yeah.
how about that, and
Uh-huh.
then
Who would
choose
want
based
to
on
do
who's
it?
available.
Yeah.
What kind of time commitment is it gonna be?
70 hours.
Yeah, Candace, and I forgot on this part, who is, are we going to ask the committee to like facilitate themselves, so to designate a facilitator, or are you guys thinking of like
That's a good
providing that? I think that would be the first thing. While we're working there on that.
Yeah, that first organizing committee
Yeah.
meeting will be
Uh-huh.
really important to establish the priorities, meeting schedule,
Yeah, yeah,
but the committee expires in December.
uh-huh,
So a lot of stuff needs to happen like
yeah,
right away.
and we
So I think
do
a
see
lot-
that, like
Or
any
until
meeting
the
that
funds
we
are
have.
turned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, so it
dismissed.
can go past
Yeah.
December.
Maybe once a week at first.
So it's a big commitment,
Yeah.
somebody that has time.
Yeah. And I would say that definitely from my experience on boards and committees, there does need to be someone that, you know, can create the agenda, can send out the meeting invite,
Yeah.
can, you
And
know,
also how to
and facilitate.
put out the RFP to people in need,
Once
That's a big
once
deal.
that process gets created,
yeah.
yeah.
Do we feel like we could get the group put together and maybe decide
then
some
go
of those
through that.
things in that
Mhm.
first meeting?
Yeah.
Because maybe we decide, you know, I'm gonna offer this and look at you so you can slap me if it's not allowed. Be like, don't say that, can we put something out on, like if we have to put out an RFP, we have bid net, are we allowed to put it out on there for them or only for government?
Yeah, it's a community
Okay.
communication,
So maybe that would be helpful if we do decide we want maybe the facilitator and the person who looks into the needs could be one and the same, and I can talk with Noah and Dan about if there's a little bit of grant funding available for that.
Yeah.
And I can try to do that, it'll probably be by the end of this week to get that piece all dialed. But maybe we can just say our first meeting, we get all of these people together, so maybe the goal is to meet by the second week in August.
Yeah.
Cause that would give the people we're asking for a donated member to us,
Yeah. I like that.
and then a few time to reach out to people.
Yeah, that sounds good, and I think that, yeah, letting them know that it is once a week is good to start. You know, some committees definitely, the need is to be very active in the beginning, and then they themselves can decide like, okay, we're no longer needing to meet as frequently.
Adam has Misty's contact.
Great. And can you share Destiny's with me? Yeah.
Yes.
Would you all be okay if I go ahead and create a meeting invite? I can work with Angel to hold space just as we're trying to get people on board, and if the people we get on board that time doesn't work for them, we can look for another time, but at least that way it
Yeah.
doesn't fall off of the radar of things to make sure we do in that second week.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that works, and Angel's out until the 6th, but we do have someone that is checking his email and
Okay.
can support.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And I will try to get with Dan this week, and get the resources that were shared. The liaisons before they left, they kind of left us a framework for ranking needs and, you know, different
Okay,
types of
great.
needs, and left that with us before they headed out, which I asked them to do, so I'll make sure we
Yeah.
maybe compile all that.
Anything that helps.
Yeah.
Cool.
To create a process. Just really quick, I'd just like to check if Gracia is on virtual, so if she has anything. Gracia, are you connected?
I'm
By
clicking on
chance?
participants.
You see, you can probably see,
Yeah, if you click stop
stop
share,
the,
we should be able to see them.
the participants.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Like, just click it.
Close us out.
Maybe not.
Nope.
No,
Okay.
Gracie.
No worries, Jim, Greg, anything that we would be missing from LCC perspective or?
No, not at all. I would just throw out this is part of the process, and I don't know what the process is gonna be like, and I understand it's gonna be different from what we do. So, one of the things that Noah and I did, we would get on the phone with landlords, and we would negotiate a 3-month lease agreement with the landlords to keep someone in their apartment, and pay them 70%. And every single landlord took it,
Nice.
without fail.
That's
Of course,
cool.
no one was gonna go back in. If someone moved out of if they threw someone out of their apartment, they had nobody to move back into their apartment during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was a good deal for them, and it made the money stretch a little bit,
That's nice.
just a thought.
Yeah, and of course it was, again, COVID lasted, quite
A
a while.
year and a half, yeah, it was a long time.
But, again, some of those processes that we can look back at, I think that it's very valuable.
Thanks you all so much for being
Yeah.
a partners.
Thank
Good
you.
discussion,
Yeah.
important discussion.
Important discussion, and this really too does help us to, continue to promote the disaster relief fund and ensure that we have the information that we need, again, to steward the funds and, answer questions if donors have questions. And at this time, I know Angel has been working hard on sending out thank yous to donors, and, us staying in connection with donors is very helpful as well, and being able to, again, share the process, that it can be transparent and that people know what's going on. It fosters the continued spirit of continuing to donate.
Okay,
Thanks, Maria.
before we go, Andy, did you catch all that? Would you like to say anything before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I like the idea of for just us three coming up with a name. I agree with Elsa and you guys that Destiny was an early name that jumped out right away. She was willing, reached out to all three of us. Can you guys hear me?
It's a little hard.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
It's not great reception here, but I'll be in touch. I think we have some names we can come up with to contribute. Hopefully, help the last member.
He has some names, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have some names, we're catching about every other word, so.
I'll start emailing with you guys and we'll coordinate.
Okay, sounds good.
Where is he?
He's in Michigan.
Whatever it is, it looks pretty enticing.
Michigan,
So-
Michigan?
Upper
The
Peninsula.
Upper Peninsula?
Yeah. Looks like.
Traverse City?
He's got a cabin on the beach.
Oh, geez. Higher, way up there.
Well, thank you,
Well, great,
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you,
This
Greg.
concludes our work session today, folks. It's 1:45.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
See ya.
Yeah.